gonna shout out, gonna stomp our feet, let you know what we want and what we believe. You're gonna listen to me, cause I'm gonna wear my heels and I'm gonna march the street. We're gonna shout out, gonna stomp our feet, let you know what we want and what we believe. You're gonna listen to me, cause I'm gonna wear my heels and I'm gonna march the street.
Hi there, everyone. How's everyone doing right now? Talking to you, motherfuckers.
I mean,
Yeah, I did. I thought you were asking the audience. I mean,
There's no
not
audience.
high yet, so that's
there's
a problem.
there's no audience here, guys. It's just the three of us. Has isolation gotten to us?
There's
I
only-
knew you were talking. I knew you were talking to me, and we're talking about this movie. So yeah, I'm doing.
What
okay.
movie are we talking about, guys?
We're talking about the pinnacle of all Superman entertainment, the Man of Steel trailer number 3.
Wait, the Christopher
That should make me
Nolan,
cry 3 times.
the Christopher Nolan produced superhero movie that he made after his Dark Knight trilogy? That movie?
Sure. Yeah, Man of Steel's a movie. It exists.
Okay, really quick. Who do I have here? I'll let the white guy state his presence first. Go ahead.
Hunter, he's calling for you.
Fuck off.
Hey, everybody, I'm Nathan.
Okay, and who else do we got here? Come on, man.
Are you gonna say the brown guy?
Yeah, I'm Hunter. Hello, audience. Hello, world.
I wasn't gonna say that,
Internet.
but it's interesting how you said it, Nathan.
Talk to us about this movie, man.
Oh, this movie, this wonderful
Talk
2000.
to us about why you're having us here. Talk to us about this. Why are we talking about this movie
Why
that
did I
clearly
drag-
hasn't been talked to by
why did I-
Nerddom for years?
Why did I drag two popular hosts of their own shows to talk about this masterpiece of cinema? Yeah, well.
Wait,
as
what
everybody
show
knows-
is that?
No, I'm not gonna say it. But I was gonna say, so everybody knows, all the nerds knows what comes out next month, right? The Snyder Cut is being,
Oh, is that next month?
it's being unleashed to the world, and yeah, I'm pretty excited. I mean, it's been talked about for like what, 3 years, 3
Years.
4
3 years of this shit.
Holy
Yes.
shit, yeah, 2017.
Yeah,
It-
3
it-
years of DC fans pissing and bitching and moaning and complaining. Yes, 3 years.
not
And you know what?
since,
At the end of the day, we all gonna watch it.
Not since Snake on a Plane has the internet produced something like this. I'm so excited.
Wow.
Think about
There
that.
has to be another example outside of
Look,
Snakes on a Plane. There has.
Name me one YouTuber.
Rise of Skywalker.
Name me one
you go.
YouTuber who's not going to talk about the Snyder Cut. We are all chomping at the bit. We all see money signs because everybody is going to want an opinion on this internet creation. Okay, quick question. Do you think the Snyder Cut always existed, or was it internet hype that got to Zack Snyder?
I definitely think there was footage. I mean, there were enough alternate pictures released in the wake of it, and there was definitely a different vision for that movie, because that movie is held together by fucking rubber bands and fucking chewing gum.
Oh yeah, it's
into
cut
a-
together like a motherfucker.
Yeah, it's a Frankenstein of a movie.
Yes.
Hunter, I think you and I mostly see eye to eye on that movie. It's kind of fun.
No, it's dumb, but it's fun. But it's
Yeah.
clear it's two different movies. Like, it's very clear it's two different films.
So who gets
But-
credit for it? The theoretical Justice League, the Josh Whedon, Zack Snyder, or the editor? Who gets credit for that movie you guys are so about?
Well,
Well, editors don't really get credit for movies, and I think that both of them get credit. They do. I mean, they're both credited.
So technically, Snyder gets the director that gets the directing. Whedon got a screenwriting credit for it. That was something that was very, very like done intentionally. As far as the Snyder cut for me never existed, because when you say cut, that's implying like, oh, this is basically fucking done. We just have to do some shit in post, and that's not what this is. And I think that's the part in particular that's been kind of driving me nuts, is people are acting like, oh, it's gonna be the thing that he did 4 years ago originally. It's like, no, that's why there's other shit being shot and stuff being put in to go ahead and fill out this 4-hour movie, which, my god, 4 fucking hours. So when you say, go ahead.
I'm
No, go
looking
ahead.
forward to it. I don't know about you guys.
To be fair, this movie, I mean, you look at Blade Runner, the final cut, there were a lot of scenes from that weren't fully finished until after the fact. And I'm willing to bet that his final vision of what that movie was supposed to be, I mean, even looking at the director's cut, got cobbled together over years of him thinking about how he wants Blade Runner to be. So I don't see the Snyder cut to be too much of a hair different than the final cut, but this is definitely a movie that he's making in 2021. This isn't a movie that he made in 2017.
And that's the point right there, because fans are acting like it's the original vision, and let's call it what it is. Considering what Snyder's gone through, how could it be his original vision from when he was, writing Justice League? Now, I'm conflicted on it because I've made no qualms about the fact I think Zack Snyder, for the most part, sucks ass through a straw. I acknowledge that. I own Man of Steel and I own Justice League. I damn sure don't own Watchmen. But the thing is, though, Warner Brothers hiring Snyder to do what Snyder does and then go, well, we're not happy with how you're handling this. It's like being mad at the Hulk for smashing. It's like you hire Snyder for what you hired him for. So when you get what he gives you, why are you surprised? Like, this is what Snyder is. He hasn't shown to be not what he does. Like, this is what Snyder does. Like, that's why you hired him, in theory.
It's like hiring Neil Blomkamp and getting mad if he makes a sci-fi movie with some shitty dialogue. Like, you hired him for this reason. And you hire Zack Snyder to do
outside
edgelord
District
shit.
9.
Okay.
Yep.
More so than the edgelord shit, you can tell with Zack Snyder, he's not so much in love with comic books as much as he's in love with graphic novels. Now, the thing about graphic novels is that you need a solid foundation to do the deconstructionism. He deconstructs things before they've even been constructed, and that's why they come off as overbloated messes.
Yeah.
And the issue, even with Snyder's best films, is that Snyder tends to take the weirdest approach for adapting a character, which is very much what we're going to get into today.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yes,
yes. Last thing I'll say real quick before we dive in, he is like Michael Bay in the sense of when he's not adapting something that's canon, that's when he's at his best. When he develops something that does have canon, that's when you kind of start to see the wheels fall off.
Except for Sucker Punch.
There you go.
Zack Snyder is Michael Bay if he wasn't afraid of women.
Wow.
Okay, you want an even more nuanced conception? Zack Snyder is Michael Bay if he thought he was David Fincher.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, point to Nathan. I love that, actually. There.
I love it. I love it.
But we're not talking about the Snyder Cut, dog. We aren't talking about the Snyder Cut. So
no. We're
bring
talking
us
about,
into the 2013.
We're talking about the road to the Snyder. Don't you hate it when lines sound better in a trailer than they do in the movie?
You are my son. Fucking tears.
So David S. Goyer did the script on this shit, and it's so interesting because when he hits, oh my god, does he fucking hit? But when he misses, it's like he hits himself in the back of the head with a bat. Like, it's really confused. Like, there's no middle ground David S. Goyer. There's usually either great David S. Goyer or dog shit David S. Goyer.
It's when he doesn't have somebody to rein him in and be like, yo, this is stupid, but I see where you're going with this. Like Christopher Nolan did with The Dark Knight. With Batman Begins.
If you
Go
dissect
ahead,
the Batman films, would you say the characters are strong or the dialogue is strong?
I think the characters are strong, for sure.
Depends on which character you're talking about. Because
Man.
Rachel is so badly written. Like in both films. And it's a giant distraction. Like in both films. It's really quite frustrating because if that one thing is adjusted, both films are stronger. And the big issue outside of the ending for Dark Knight is when Rachel's in peril and we're supposed to give a shit, you don't really give a shit because there's not enough of a connection between Maggie Gyllenhaal and Christian Bale to carry it. And honestly, that's the biggest problem I have. Well, second biggest problem I have with Man of Steel is that I know some people don't like Cavill. I think Cavill brings a presence to Superman that's very Reeves-esque. Not quite as Reeves-esque as Brandon Routh in the Crisis on Infinite Earth crossover that CW just did recently. Because that's probably the closest thing we'll get to Reeves ever. Honestly, is Brandon Routh Superman. But go ahead, dog.
When they were pitching this movie to us, like Christopher Nolan was a strong presence to the early marketing to this movie, right? Like they were dangling the Nolan name when it was powerful in front of our eyes, and we're like, oh man, producer Christopher Nolan, written by David S. Goyer, producer Christopher Nolan, directed by Zack Snyder.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about this movie, which we need to get in the movie itself more so than this, but Christopher Nolan was seen by WB, and we all know this, as being a sure thing. Now, where that relationship is at currently after he just trashed HBO Max is a whole other discussion in and of itself.
So for me, the first act is the beginning, right till they go to the ice. Right the moment we meet Lois Lane, I consider that the first act of the movie. His planet, his time in Kansas, and that, I love that part. That's my favorite bit of the movie.
Same.
One of my favorite bits of the movie, personally, comes after. I could give a fuck about Jor-El. I could give a fuck about Zod. I give a fuck about the character and the art design just based off of the fact that it's a little bit different. But where I start to feel for Kal-El Clark is when he's in school and he's locked himself into a closet.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about. And Martha, which has become a meme in and of himself, which we're not going to get into because that's a whole other can of worms. She says, think of my voice as an island and come to it. That's where I'm like, okay, he landed in the right place, which is something that is crucial to a Superman story.
Yes.
What this movie reminds me of, which it's trying to evoke Batman Begins, and I get it. I get what they're trying to do with it. Doesn't reach that Batman Begins tactility.
No.
Because so much of this movie is CGI. This movie is closer to Amazing Spider-Man. It's a darker take on the character. It messes up the same thing that Amazing Spider-Man messes up, which is the death of a significant father figure that leaves you more questions than answers. Because
Does it?
No, it does. When we're talking about both films, referring to Superman 1978 and Man of Steel, we get to that crucial moment where Jonathan Kent dies of a heart attack in Superman 1978. It's a great moment because he understands there are some things, there are some people that I can't save.
Yeah.
That is what he learns from that moment, and that's what makes him a man who understands humanity more. In this, the crucial thing that he hears is that if humanity finds me, that humanity cannot know my secret. He ends up revealing is sort of bullshit by the end of it. Until Batman versus Superman.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I don't like that became mainstream. The whole Papa Kent dying thing. I don't enjoy that. I like my Papa Kent to be alive. I think that's an important aspect of Superman. He didn't lose a parent. He had both his parents with him. That's like a really important aspect of Superman for me. And when we get to that point where it's like, oh well, you will lose somebody, they make that such an important thing for him that's just so common for other comic book characters that it's really not special for me. What made Superman different than so many other heroes was the fact that he did have both his parents. And
True. So Nathan brings up a very good point, because there are elements of this that definitely are reminiscent of Amazing Spider-Man, but for me, that's more in the Lois Lane camp, because Amy Adams, one of the best actresses we have working, period. And the fact they cannot find something for her to do is so goddamn frustrating watching this movie. It's like, oh my god, could she be, I don't know, a reporter? Maybe let her, her plan to leak this the story she's writing on Clark to this conspiracy theory website. The fact that Perry didn't go, fired, get out of this office, don't ever come back, that should have been the reaction. The fact he goes, oh, take 3 weeks. I was like, really? That? Okay, that's a very.
Let's just say it.
I'll play.
She's not a good Lois
sorry.
Lane. She's not a good Lois Lane. She's too.
I think she could make a good Okay, here's where I go with this. And I won't put this all on Snyder. Lois Lane is a hard character to crack.
Is she?
Mainly because... No, she is. Because of her entire relationship with Superman, as we know it in the films, is that she is a damsel of distress, but in this you kind of want to have it both ways, where she's both a strong, independent woman who...
She is not a strong, independent woman in this film.
She is not. They are trying to make her stronger, and they have a fucking MVP actress in the lead. But regardless, you have to put her in the damsel of distress role so that Henry Cavill saves her. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it makes her act stupid in a lot of scenes. And her stupidity driving the plot ends up becoming very problematic.
Yes.
No matter how you shake it.
Agreed. The thing that's frustrating is if you go back and you watch Superman the Animated Series, or you watch Justice League, or Justice League Unlimited, there's a template there, because Lois is usually working on a case. And I think the best part of Lois in this film is kind of the 5-minute montage we get, where she's kind of starting to put pieces together about who Clark is. That's the most Lois Lane she is in the film, but you only get 5 minutes of it. And that's a really big problem when she's already working at the fucking Daily Planet. So when the movie asks you to give a shit, also it doesn't make sense, not Zod, but his underling, the chick. When
I fucking love her. And
yeah,
I
no,
would go to
and
bat
she's
for her.
great. But the problem is when she goes, oh, she needs to come too, there's really no reason for her to go on the ship. It's just like, oh, you happen to be, of all the people they could have taken, they take her. I guess some people would argue, well, maybe it's because they had the emotional connection, but not really at that point. It's more out of convenience that they happen to get her too. So it's really frustrating when she is that damsel in distress. As Nathan said, it's really because more of happenstance instead of it actually being earned. And that's a really big problem when you get to the third act, where shit just goes bananas at that point.
I think that as a whole, the big problem with this movie, which we're bagging on this movie a lot, visually it's stunning. Cavill, pretty solid in the movie. The whole cast on a whole, when I read this cast, like Michael Shannon as Zod, solid choice. I don't think he has a lot to do here except for have his eyes separate and say, I will find him!
He plays this like the best theater job. Like very much like a theater job that's kind of like almost like a blank script. Kind of like, here's a dialogue, play this however you want. And I think for how he portrays him, I actually like his portrayal of Zod. Now, I will be the first to admit my favorite scenes with Zod are with Russell Crowe, who I think is actually the MVP of the film. I think Russell Crowe is actually the best part about this. As far as the portrayal, he's my favorite portrayal in the film. All due respect to Cavill, because I think Cavill gets shit on more than he should. I think Cavill's a good Superman who's gotten bad material.
Okay, so there's a point. Okay, in the beginning of the movie, he's sad. He's unhappy. And that's why he's acting the way he is. Now, the moment he dons the Superman outfit, do you think it's just incidental, or do you think it's a character choice the character in the film is making to act like an alien, like an emotionless alien? Because that's how a Superman is acting the entire time. And I'm asking, is that on purpose? Do you think he's trying to act like an alien? Like the character himself?
I don't think it's so much an actor choice as much as it's a director choice. I think what we're actually more in line with, as much as people love this movie, and I will say there's a great villain performance in it, this is actually kind of the 1989 Batman of Superman, where we have a lot of great visuals.
Okay.
A very strong misinterpretation of the character that in some ways works more than it doesn't. I will say that Cavill has that aw shucks charm that you're looking for out of Superman.
At the very end.
I don't think he's given...
At the very end.
At the very end. He's not given enough moments to play it. As a whole, I don't think it gets the soul of the character right. Visually stunning, though.
Damn it. Okay, well look, one positive about the film that I'm going to say is there's an argument that you can make that the film is about Clark Kent, Kal-El, Superman discovering their humanity. Because, you know, the entire time it is an alien who knows he's an alien who just doesn't feel like he belongs anywhere. The entire film. He just seems lost, and he just seems isolated. And by the end of the film, it's that moment where he comes to the Daily Planet, he's got his Clark Kent getup, and he's smiling. He's like, now that I'm accepting all these aspects of myself, I can be a person.
Hans Zimmer is killing it in here.
It's so hot take. Zimmer's Superman theme is better than John Williams' theme for me. I think it is the best DCEU theme that's being used right now.
The main Superman theme really reminds me like of Matt Smith's Doctor Who theme. Like there's a build up. It's like that's getting you hyped for like whatever's about to happen, and that's like a really important thing. It's the one thing he has over Captain America is his like Superman theme is really good.
Cast, I think that both fathers are really well cast. Like you said, Russell Crowe, pretty fucking perfect for Jor-El. You caught him right before he became fat Russell Crowe. This is like pre-divorce Russell Crowe to where he is. Every word that he says is very Maximus Decimus Meridius.
Okay. But first off, this is not pre-fat Russell Crowe. No, he's just wearing robes. This is Russell Crowe.
No. Russell Crowe got into shape. He got into shape for this. He did. He actually got into shape for this. Because he saw Cavill's like Instagram, or I think Cavill was on a cover of Men's Health, and saw him and went, oh fuck, I can't look like a fucking slob next to Cavill. So to Russell Crowe's credit, he put in the work. So
yeah. And then as much as his death scene really blows, I think that Kevin Costner is a damn near perfect Jonathan Kent. He embodies everything that you expect out of that character.
Is he?
Outside of his ethos.
I agree. Like he's
we
not
can all
wrong.
disagree here.
He's not wrong. Like maybe the world would not react well to you, but he's not explaining it well enough. It's more like just be afraid of what could possibly happen. Not like, look, there are several bad things that can happen. One, people form a cult around you. That's one bad thing. That's why you shouldn't do it. Or like, Christians will start to kill themselves because aliens are real. It's like he could have gone to specifics on like why it's a bad thing for anybody to know.
As far as the cinematography, Amir M. Makri does a great job at this. I mean, this is one of the few movies that Zack Snyder has done without Larry Fong, who is his go-to cinematographer, which Larry Fong is a great cinematographer in general. I mean, Kong Skull Island is one of the most gorgeous Blu-rays you can look at in general. I think there's a lot of strong work here. I think that Lawrence Fishburne is a perfect Perry Black. But getting into the negative, we are still at this point where Zack Snyder is deconstructing Superman. He's deconstructing on the first introduction to a cinematic universe. You should be opening up the world. As much as we know in this world is that Superman exists and Wayne has a satellite. That's it. That's all we know about this world. It's not like Iron Man where we know at least that there is a big high-tech world that he inhabits.
Iron Man introduces S.H.I.E.L.D. very successfully.
Yes, which is very important to this. In here, we really don't have anything like that. I think if you were to do a DCEU,
you get the U.S. military.
You'd need somebody like... You need to get somebody like Green Lantern. You need to get somebody like Flash. You need to get somebody who is fun enough to where audiences will watch a movie with them, but can introduce broader aspects of the DC universe. There's no real broad aspects outside of holy fuck we're on Krypton and then holy fuck we're on Earth and Earth is really fucked up.
Now, but if it did all that, would you actually like it more, or do you enjoy it for feeling like a standalone movie?
I think you can have it both ways. I mean, look at Iron Man. You can show your grandma Iron Man, and she'll probably like it. It's a simple movie. It's a very straightforward redemption story. With this, you're getting a Superman movie that's deconstructing Superman, but the last time we had a really good Superman introduction, was like 35 years ago at this point.
So I'm going to jump in here real quick. So the destruction of Krypton is the second best scene that Zack Snyder has filmed. The first being Dr. Manhattan's origin in Watchmen, because as much as I do not like that film, that as a mini film is fucking incredibly well done. While Zod and Jor-El are having a dick measuring contest, like it definitely is that. The way it's handled as far as these potential, well, let's call it what it is, these out of touch people like making decisions about Krypton as Krypton is getting destroyed. It's like, well, shit, that's a fucking bummer. But that whole destruction scene is so well handled, as well as the scene that's right afterwards where we pick up with Clark as an adult, and he crosses over into that Mark Wahlberg Deepwater Horizon movie.
Deepwater Horizon. I'm so glad you said that. I was about to make the same joke.
There you go. and saves those guys. The problem is, while he's saving people in the first act, in the third act, all that shit goes away. Like, he doesn't really, like, outside of saving the people that Zod was gonna barbecue, that's really all Superman does. Like, I guess he destroys that one machine, but while he's fighting Zod, they're causing 9/11 levels of destruction, and there's no.
You say 9/11, I say what? Like 1,000 9/11s.
Let's go ahead. We're just gonna squeeze in the second act and third act as one big act, because really they just follow right into each other. There's almost no separation.
They really do.
But okay, so like we're saying, how does the film handle for you the moment the Kryptonian, is that how you say Kryptonians? land
Yeah,
on Earth.
Kryptonians,
Like
yeah.
it, like that's the moment like the rest of the film starts for me.
It felt like they were going for that classic sci-fi, like day the Earth stood still kind of moment, and it just doesn't. The problem is you don't know enough about the characters that are invading to have that level of gravity to it. You just have the level of gravity because you know Zod is there. It's not because they've done the legwork. That's my biggest issue as far as when they do land. Now once Superman's in the ship and you get and I'm just gonna say it, when Superman falls down on his knees and starts coughing up blood, that's a perfect time for a kneel before Zod moment. And I'm just like, guys, it was right there. Could you not have? Sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
No, it's just when we're talking about this movie, we need to really think about what came before it. And is there anything that this movie does that Superman 2 and Superman 1 don't do better than it? Because it's treading the same waters. And I would, for the most part, argue no. There are a lot of things that have, there's a lot of action. If we're talking about things that it does better, I guess as far as Superman punching things, yes. You could even argue the visuals, but I would also argue that the first two Superman movies are very visually stunning.
Well, I would say the original Superman movies, besides like Lex Luthor, do not like have good supporting characters at all. Was there like a secondary character that you guys would say was your favorite character when we're thinking about these last two acts?
Mama Kent. She's the most important, and for me is my outside of Russell Crowe's performance. You don't get a lot of Diane Lane. Nathan brought up the scene of her, talking to him in the closet at school, and that scene is so well handled because when his powers activate and he's seeing people's like organs and hearing people, like it's very X-Men 2000-esque when Rogue's powers kick in. Just that initial shock and oh fuck, what's happening, and that is so well handled that you just want to give Clark a hug, because rightfully so, he's losing his shit and doesn't really know what to do. But the problem is they show everyone as being a piece of shit, and that's really the biggest issue the film has. Like, no one's really nice to Clark. It's almost that point of he's saving humanity, yes, because he has the power to, and because his mom alone has shown that there are good people in the world. But it feels a little relentless how negative and how cruel everyone is to this one specific person. So that's an issue that when the third act kicks in and you want him to kind of save people, it's like, well, he's saving Lois because it's Lois Lane, not because there's an actual connection between them. And so that's a problem. And so when you have this random family that he has to save, and I'll tell you right now, Superman killing, because he does have that, Superman's killed before, but it's definitely not something he practices too often. Save that moment for another film. Like, this movie is actually better if Zod gets sucked into the Phantom Zone with everyone else. It actually probably ends on a stronger note if you do that, as opposed to having the big giant.
After everybody gets sucked into the wormhole, it's Superman and Lois Lane standing in the middle of all the debris, and then Lois Lane just like sticking her tongue down Superman's throat. It's very jarring, and then it's when Zod comes in. It's like, okay, good, we don't gotta dwell on this.
And I think I'm the one who likes the movie the most out of the three of us, but when I think about the stuff, because again, I think we've been a little negative on this, but as far as stuff I really do love, the first time Superman flies, it gave me Spider-Man, like original Spider-Man vibes, as far as this is how I want this to feel as far as Superman flying. The concept that he actually causes damage when he flies is something that's always bothered me, that's never really been addressed. Even the comics kind of don't really address it that often. So him actually leaving damage when he takes off, and went, They bring up the whole him, like the sun soaking, him sucking up sunlight for his cells, which I went, okay, I appreciate you dressed that as well. So it's not like Snyder is devoid of doing some research. The problem is it feels like he's read one Superman comic. And so I give Snyder credit for even making this work for me as well as it does. But, okay, I'll put it like this. He should have read All-Star Superman. Because that's how you humanize Superman. And outside of the Donner cut, which I think is the closest we've gotten, there really hasn't been a live action adaptation in film of Superman that has gotten me to that level of emotion for Superman. And we should be there at this point. And we're not. It's kind of frustrating.
I feel like the entire revisionist thinking to Superman that led to the creation of Man of Steel was the very, Superman really doesn't wreck shit as much as I'd like for him to. Snyder always chooses the wrong way to adapt anything. I mean, if you were to tell me now that Zack Snyder, not having seen Dawn of the Dead, is going to do a movie with fast-moving zombies that takes away most of the humor inherent in Dawn of the Dead and is doing a remake, I would think that it's going to be a shit remake. I personally think it's his best film. But it is the weird way to take that character. I think that the third act is a big problem because we're deconstructing a character that we haven't seen constructed well in 35 years.
Well, okay.
I love Superman Returns.
Honest question for everybody. Would you have received this movie so much better if it was called Brightburn?
So, Brightburn kind of has the same issue I think Nathan's talking about as far as the deconstruction. You don't see the kid enough as a good kid, so that when the flip happens, it just feels like it's being done because it has to be done. It's not...
And I haven't seen Brightburn.
If you took the weight of the fact that this is a Superman adaptation, if this had just been a Superman satire, maybe, but it was taking itself very seriously, do you think you would have received it better?
No.
No,
not at all.
No. Like, the thing is, there's a certain template for these superhero films. Like, let's call it what it is. There's definitely a template. But when you look at something, and I'll take a kind of random one, you look at something like Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is constructed before he's deconstructed. Like, he's a piece of shit, he's great at his job, bit of a womanizer, full of himself. Yeah, I think part of the issue might be how it's presented, because we cut to Clark as an adult, but then we get these flashbacks. It's a little jarring how the flashbacks are done at points because they kind of come randomly. Because if you're going to kill off Papa Kent, which they obviously do, you need to have more of a relationship with his mom. And he only has like 2 or 3 scenes about 4 minutes a pop with his mom. And that's kind of an issue if you're going to kill off, the one, like, as you said, Doggett, one of the cool things about Superman is that he has both parents. And Snyder immediately takes that card off the table. It's like, well, but because it is just Mama Kent, there are these points where she feels overwhelmed. There's that point where he finds out, discovers the ship, discovers who he is and all that. And when he's telling his mom about it, she just seems so overwhelmed that she can't even be happy for him. And I'll be honest, I don't recall feeling like that the first time I saw it, but rewatching it today, it actually took me out of the movie for a couple of minutes. So
I'll be honest about something, guys. I actually really like this movie so much, a lot actually, until a week ago, because a week ago I watched Superman Man of Tomorrow, and I'm like, Zack Snyder would love to make a movie like this, full of Lobo and a Martian being burned to death. Man, Zack Snyder could have made the fuck out of this movie, but we got this instead. And I'm just thinking, okay, how much of this went bad, possibly because it's Zack Snyder, in some ways, back all the way back then, trying to not completely, but just slightly aping Nolan. the whole realism thing. Like
Um,
Zack Snyder doesn't work on realism. That is not his strength.
Okay, here's where I'm going to take it. I think that this movie is the safest bet possible for Warner Brothers at the time. You're
Yeah,
looking
I'll
at
give you that.
like this. You're doing a Superman movie that, well, it is a little bit different in the sense that there is more violence, which in most regards I think is everybody's issue with the movie. It's far too grim and violent for a Superman movie, and when we get this, we have David S. Goyer, who is really just trying the same thing that he did with Batman Begins, non-chronological origin story, because we all know the origin of Batman. We don't need it in order. But doing that for Superman, you need to have more of a meaning to how the flashbacks are seamed in there. In this, we really don't have much of an entry point into Clark outside of the fact that he's afraid because he's weird and he's different, which is more of a Tim Burton. It's too safe of a bet. And when you're looking at this, there's nothing that it pushes with Superman that's relatively new, and all the stuff that it pushes that is new is stuff that we don't want out of Superman.
Here's where I'm gonna piggyback off of Nathan here. Nathan's 1,000% correct for once, because
1,000%.
you put out something like you put out something like Batman Begins, which great movie but underperformed because people were still at that Batman and Robin taste in their mouth. I mean, really, you could make the argument the same thing outside of just the bad marketing, but for Birds of Prey, same thing. People were like, "Oh, Suicide Squad," but DC needed a sure thing to make sure they could launch this universe. Now, granted, where it's gone, that's a whole other conversation, but Nolan was gold at the time. But the problem is Nolan told this story like a Batman origin, and with someone who works so much in realism, outside of Dark Knight Rises, someone who works so much with realism, that takes away quite a bit from Superman really early on. But if Superman is Superman, which you've established, he can use his lasers, because you see it earlier in the film when they destroy Smallville. Like, which, my God, that scene upsets me more than anything, because there's no regard for human life at all for Superman. And you see it throughout the movie. He saves a school bus full of kids, which is one of the best scenes in the whole film. That whole talk that he has with his dad afterwards, it's frustrating because it's peaks and valleys. Like the peaks are high for this, but the lows are really low. And when you bounce it out, it's just gonna kind of depend on what bothers you more about this movie versus what you love.
Okay, a big sticking point for me on all things media is the time. Like how tight this is. Maybe some things can be shaved off. In you guys' opinion,
Yeah.
what would make this movie better for you? Shaving time off or adding more time?
Shaving time off.
Yeah, this is 2.5 hours. This should have been 2.
What would you cut out?
And maybe 2:05 even.
What I would cut out is most of the destruction in the third act. You make it a little bit more self-contained. Sure, you'll get your hardcore Superman fans who are like, man, he didn't punch enough people. But once you get to the point where he is running through another building, the building crashes, people are screaming, and sure, we get the whole deconstruction of that in the second installment in the Road to the Snyder Cut. We end up feeling overwhelmed, especially since, as much as I'm giving Zimmer credit, and this isn't so much his fault, a lot of the music becomes very redundant towards the end of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so quick rating. So this is how my rating's gonna go. You're just gonna tell me which of the DCU movies you like more than this, and which of the DCU movies you like less than this. That's the rating system here. So Hunter, go ahead and tell me.
I like this more than BVS. I like this less than Shazam. I like this less than Joker. I actually like this less than Justice League, which is really funny to actually say.
Nathan, pick a few
Yeah, sure.
Hunter
Okay.
just mentioned.
Okay, some movies I like more than this.
Of the DCU.
Aquaman. I feel like, of the DCEU, Aquaman I prefer to this. Mainly because at some point Arthur becomes a hero and it feels like there's a conscious decision for that. Movies that I like less than this. Suicide Squad. Yeah, the big problem with this is it the worst Superman movie? Fuck no. It's not even the worst Superman movie out of these batch of movies we're about to talk about. It's not worse than Superman 3. It's not worse than Superman 4. I prefer Superman Returns to this, but that's a whole other conversation.
Interesting. That's an interesting question. Is you like Return?
Yeah, honestly, that is a good way to pull it. Hunter, do you feel the same?
So, oh man. So I haven't watched Returns in a minute. So I would say just on my memory, I like Returns slightly more because I thought. So first off, I think Ralph got a really raw deal on Returns. My issues with that really is similar to this. I think Kate Bosworth is just a dogshit Lois Lane. I just didn't like her in the role, but you can feel the influence of old school Superman on that, and
all over it.
And it does get by somewhat on nostalgia for me, but I feel like it's a more earnest film than what this is.
But yeah, on the whole, I like this movie. I don't love it. I think that it's got problems that truly hold it back from being a great film, and I don't think it does anything that the other Superman movies haven't done way better.
Well, let me just go ahead and say, for me, I'm just gonna name the things that are directly above and below this. So this movie for me is directly above Suicide Squad because I despise that film so much. It was the original. Man of Steel is the original disappointing trailer movie. This is like the Suicide Squad's the second disappointing trailer movie for me. Because those trailers really...
This is a Godzilla King of the Monsters case. This is a Godzilla King of the Monsters case. Where the trailer...
we're gonna fight.
No, we're not gonna fight because you can definitely get on my side with this. The trailer to Godzilla King of the Monsters is miles ahead of what that movie is.
Yes.
But that movie isn't bad.
Yeah, you lost me there.
Yeah, you lost me. The only person who Martin Standow's Godzilla King of the Monsters.
I think Godzilla King of the Monsters is a fucking bore, to be honest. Like,
good night, everybody.
Okay, we're cutting it a bit close here, guys. So I'm just gonna say I like BVS. I like BVS more than this. I'm not gonna say why. I'm gonna leave that for later. But
what the fuck? Seriously?
Yeah, I'm not even gonna say why. I'm gonna say that for the next one.
I can't wait to listen to that BVS review like 5 years from now.
Give everybody your outros. Hunter, go ahead. Pip your shit.
All right, you can listen to yours truly on wherever you listen to podcasts, SoundCloud, Apple, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, TuneUp, at The Real Pineapple. You can like both our pages on Facebook at The Real Pineapple and Real Pineapple Games, and you can find me on Twitch at The Real Pineapple, and find me on the Twitter at JHunterRealPineapple. That's REEL, by the way.
Nathan?
And if you're looking for a little bit more DC content and more of Hunter's lovely voice, you can listen to our podcast Mission Impossible, where we do an impossible interview with Phil Morris, who gives some of the best breakdowns of DC's comic book history ever that I have heard. But, if you're more interested in, I guess, more discussion of Henry Cavill like 6 years down the line, you can listen to Mission Impossible. You can find our back catalog on iTunes and Spreaker. Rate and review us on iTunes. You can find us on Twitter at Impodible, IMPODIBLE. You can also go on Facebook.com/Mission Impossible. Sign up for our Patreon, where we keep the conversation going. A lot of you lovely folks will hear Doggett and Hunter on there, probably sooner than you'll ever hear this.
And everybody, you know who
Think
I
of you.
am? I'm Doggett. You can find me here and on oneofus.net and sometimes on Mission Impossible. Night, everybody.